All right, so this Knife Thoughts video is going to be on this knife, and this is the Boker Plus USA made Balisong. Now, I want to say right off the bat that I am not an expert on Balisongs. I'm not like a flipper. You know, there's some people that are almost to the level of being like artistic with their flipping. That's not me. I just like knives and wanted to have a Balisong with a metal blade in my collection, and I've really enjoyed this knife, so I wanted to make a video on it. So first of all, let's talk about the design of this knife. It's actually a pretty classic Balisong design from what I've seen. It has a drop point blade with a nice curved edge. It has a drawn swedge on both sides and is just kind of what you see a lot of in American-made Balisongs on the blade shape, as well as the handle shape. It has the holes cut out in the handle. Now it's G10 versus stainless steel. I would prefer the look of stainless steel handles just for the traditionality of it, but I think the G10 looks pretty good also and works well. But it's pretty classic, straight handles. You know, again, it has these wide guards here and the classic drop point blade shape. So that's part of what interested me in it, is that it is kind of a quintessential Balisong from what I can tell. And again, I'm not an expert, but it looks like what I imagine when I imagine a Balisong. And like I said, I wanted to get it just because I wanted to have a Balisong with a metal blade and actual, you know, Balisong in my collection, or butterfly knife. So I like the design of this knife. Now, as for the construction of this knife, I was actually really impressed with it. One thing, I looked at a lot of reviews on these knives that I could find when I was planning on purchasing it. I've actually been planning on purchasing it for months and just kind of put it off. And partly because some of the reviews acted like it wasn't, you know, the nicest Balisong out there. But I mean, again, I'm not an expert, but to me, it seems really nice. It came extremely smooth. Both of the pivots feel very, very smooth. No really resistance, no major resistance. And they both came solid also, with no side-to-side play, which I've seen on high-end Balisongs also. And they haven't developed any from my carry and use of it, and I've carried it since I've gotten it. So for a good bit, good enough to definitely get a feel for it, and that it would have loosened, I think, if it was going to. So I was impressed with that. Overall, the machining is pretty good. You know, maybe not 100% perfect on some of it, but looks good on the handles with the holes, and the blade itself, I oiled it a little bit before doing the video, so there's quite a bit of oil on the blade, but the blade itself seems ground pretty evenly. Now, one thing I will say is that the grind is not the thinnest grind I've ever seen. If you look here, you know, it's kind of thick behind the edge, at least down here towards the heel of the edge. It does get a little thinner up towards the tip, but I sharpened it, kind of thinned it out slightly, and I think it did a good, you know, did good for it. It didn't come with the thinnest or honestly the sharpest edge. There was a little bit of edge damage here down at the heel when I got it. But having a thin edge probably isn't the main, you know, traditional use of a Balisong. That said, it is something I want on it because I'm carrying this as an everyday carry, just utility knife, not as a self-defense thing. So I did want it to cut, and I did find that it, you know, cut pretty well. I use this for a lot of EDC tests, some cardboard cutting, some food prep actually, because it has a relatively long blade, and it cut pretty well, especially after that edge. Though again, it is not the best slicer out there. I don't want to misrepresent that. It's not a super, you know, lightsaber type slicer, but it does well enough for EDC, particularly because it's kind of a novelty factor being a Balisong. It's just a fun knife to carry as an EDC. So overall, despite the thicker edge, it is, I think, really well made, and I was impressed with the construction of the knife. Speaking of the blade, this is not a small knife. So the blade is 4 inches according to the specs on, you know, on the website where I got this. And so it's not a small knife by any means. I want to show you some comparisons real quick. This is a Spyderco Police. You can see it's, you know, it's a little longer, but that's a really big knife. To give you a comparison to something a little bit more EDC friendly, here is a Benchmade Griptilian. You can see that the Balisong is quite a bit bigger. and then something probably even more EDC friendly, a Spyderco Native 5, and it's kind of dwarfed by the Balisong. So this is not what maybe a lot of people would call an EDC friendly size knife. For me, it's not a problem at all, really. I carry a lot of longer knives and I haven't had an issue carrying it whatsoever, especially because I think for a Balisong, it really is a good size. A 4-inch blade is more in line with what you want on a Balisong, I think, and more traditional for a Balisong. Plus, it makes it so that you have more weight in the handles for the flipping. Again, I'll reiterate, I'm not an expert or master or even close to it. I'm probably not even a novice flipper, but it definitely helps to have weight in the handles, and the longer blade makes the handles longer, so more weight in the handles for the flipping. Now, the blade on this is D2. So you can see that on the handle there. And this is the model number, I believe. I'll get into a little bit of the model information later, but the steel is D2. And I appreciate that. It's kind of not a high-end steel at this point, probably a lower-end steel, but a steel that I'm very used to, that I'm comfortable with, and that works well. Now, when I first got this, I put it in my pocket and was using it doing some housework or yard work actually, and I got really sweaty and it was super hot outside, and it did get some pepper spots, so you probably would want to keep this oiled. This is mineral oil that I have on it here, and or just keep it dry. The pepper spots came off really easily with just a polishing cloth. But you do have to remember that D2 is technically not stainless. It's very close to stainless in its chromium content, but it's not quite stainless. So it's a steel, like I said, that I'm used to, that I think works well, and I think is a fair steel to have on this, like for the price. But you just have to be aware of the possibility of rust. Now, my favorite thing about this knife, or really my two favorite things about this knife, and what made me choose it over the other options that are out there for a Balisong to add to my collection, is that it has both a pocket clip and a spring latch. And the reason why this is so important to me is because, like I said several times, I'm not a flipper. So I'm not buying a Balisong just to, have it at home and take it out, every now and then and flip it around. I want to be able to carry it and use it. And Balisongs that don't have a spring latch take an extra step to get them out of your pocket, and ones that don't have a clip, you're probably either carrying it in, a pouch, which again is an extra step, or in the bottom of your pocket, and they're usually too big for that, in my opinion. Now, these are features that from what I've seen, you don't see on a whole lot of Balisongs in this price range, and especially USA made ones. So for example, I bought a Kershaw Lucha recently, which is a really great looking Balisong. It has, again, a pretty classic blade shape, more of a clip point than a drop point, and it has stainless steel handles. But unfortunately, I actually didn't even realize when I bought it, it doesn't have either a clip or a spring latch. So if I remember correctly, I know it doesn't have a clip. I'm pretty sure it didn't have a spring latch either. So that was a real big disappointment to me. And then looking at other Balisongs on the market, like a Bradley or Baronson and others, they really usually in this price range don't have a clip and spring latch. And like I say, it's important to me because it really allows it to be EDC'd. If you have a clip, you can put it in your pocket and actually carry it without it being in the way of everything, or you have to get it out of your bag or something, or the bottom of your pocket. And the spring latch means that when you take it out of your pocket, you can just squeeze the handles and it undoes that latch. Then the non-clip handle here is the safe handle, the one that you're not going to get cut if you open it with, and you can flip it out and use it. So I really appreciate that. That's honestly what sold this knife on me, and I think really makes it a more useful, more practical knife than any other Balisong I've seen on the market in this price range. So again, I really appreciate it that it has this spring latch and pocket clip. And to show you how the spring latch works one more time, you just squeeze it, there's a spring in there, and it opens. And then again, you can open with the safe handle. So those are my two favorite features on this knife, and I think really put it above other knives in this price range on the market. Now, I also found another version on Lamnia, which is a knife dealer from overseas in Europe. It does seem to be a different one though. So it has the same design, but the logo is up on the blade rather than down here. And it actually claims two different steels, 9CR13 Co MOV and 440C. So just make sure when you are, looking for this knife that you are getting the one you want. I know I would prefer to have, the USA made one with D2 steel over, one made overseas with a lesser steel. So just make sure you check in the specs that you're getting the version that you're looking for. So overall, I'm just really happy with this purchase. I, like I said, wanted to add a Balisong with a metal blade, and I keep saying that because I actually have two Balisongs that are all plastic, or FGX. This one was given to me by my wife, so it's got a lot of sentimental value to it. And then I also have the other version of the Cold Steel FGX Balisong, which has a Tonto blade shape, but those are, not really made for cutting. They're kind of a novelty. So I wanted to have one that I could actually carry and use on a daily basis. And I'm really happy with this. I think for the price of under $100, you're getting a good value, made in the USA, good materials with the D2 and the G10, and good features. Like I said, I really appreciate that it has the clip and the spring latch. So I've really enjoyed it. It's a little bit of a novelty, definitely not the most practical knife for EDC for me, or I think most people, but when you're watching a video like this, you probably aren't purely buying knives for practicality. You probably just like knives like me. And if you're looking for a good Balisong at a reasonable price, then I think that this Boker Plus USA made Balisong is a great choice. So if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Also check out my social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Knife Thoughts, and make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you know when I post new videos. Also check out my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife related topics. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.